are back again, another episode. Do you have your alarm clock set for this? You know, they do this every week at the same time, another new released episode. I mean, you don't even get this on network television. But here you have it on the Main Street Randyland YouTube channel. Boy, oh boy, I tell you, life is good sometimes, isn't it? You just sit back. You can even watch it at your leisure. Just pull it up, have it on your favorite screens, and did you subscribe? I haven't asked this in a while. Well, you must have subscribed because you're here, but you should tell your friends. You should promote it on all your social medias so everybody can see all the fun stuff that you've been seeing. It's not a secret. That's why it's here, so you can enjoy it. So we were over here. We were talking about other stuff, and I said, oh, look at that. It is my seesaw ride. Well, what do you mean seesaw ride? I don't see a seesaw ride. But you see that clown sitting there kind of looking at us with his head turned. Well, he is on a seesaw. All right. Now, you see that cigarette thing that's just kind of laying there. That's because I needed a place to put it that was straight. I got that from the Nut Hut in Wildwood. When the Nut Hut went out of business, I got a lot of signs and things like that. There's a hot dog sign up there. Came from the Nut Hut. They sold cigarettes. This seesaw has a seat on this side, and there is a seat on that side between the clown's arms. You see the handle there. Well, this was a dime. All right. And if I move some of this stuff here, you can even see it is iconicized. You have the Carousel Arcade in Seaside. Look at that. And I mounted that on the side of the seesaw ride. On the other side would be the coin box where you would actually insert your coin. And this ride would simply go up and back and up and back. And a little kid would sit on each side if you wanted to. Now, if you only had one little kid, you could have them sit on this side. Or if you had two little kids, and one would have to be really little to sit on this side, they would sit in the arms of the clown. Now, why would you get a seesaw ride? I don't have any little kids. I don't have any little children. And you know, I was a little children once myself. And yes, I sat in that seesaw ride. I sat in that clown's arms. Little Randy. Now you see how little Randy would have to be in order to sit there, but I sat in that very seat, in those very arms of that clown. And as a matter of fact, my sister would sit on the other side. She was 2.5 years older than I, so she got the bigger seat. And my mom would stand in the middle holding each kid, of course concentrating more on the little one because I would be there and the clown's arms would keep you from falling out. It was very well engineered and designed. But what was interesting was, as the ride would go back and forth, I remember being that little, I remember that I would get hit in the back of the head by the nose of the clown. The clown's nose would bob me in the back of the head. My mother told the arcade owner about it. She used to talk to him all the time, and the mechanic's name was Lou Capetta. And Lou was really great. And Lou went over and he turned the clown's head. He loosened the clown's head so it would turn to the side. Originally, it faced forward. And you see that nose used to hit me in the back of the head. So this is the influence that the Randy has had in the amusement business, even from the time he was a little baby. He could not have the clown's nose hitting him in the back of the head, so he had something done about it. You see, it starts early. But the seesaw ride is very special because, like everything here, it's connected to my experiences and my life in the amusement business. So even if it was just something I acquired and I carried home and I remembered seeing, but this is one I actually sat in and I got hit in the head by the clown's nose. So how do you beat that? So he's got a prominent spot there, and of course above him is a nice bumper car, because you got to have a bumper car. And there's the Chadwick Fishery. You see that? That was in Chadwick Beach. These stars, I I personally custom made the labeling printing on them to iconicize places that used to be. And we used to go to the Chadwick Fishery on Route 35 going north into Chadwick. It was a couple towns up from Lavalette. It was one of our favorite places. And even as a little young Randy, I enjoyed the Manhattan clam chowder at the Chadwick Fishery. And I would get the fried filet of sole. Try to get fried filet of sole in a fish place anymore. I'm going to give you palate and all stuff like that. But it used to be actually fried filet of sole, and I used to love that. And I would have coleslaw and applesauce and my Manhattan clam chowder at the Chadwick Fishery. You see, this was the little kid's menu, you know. So this is kind of like memories of little Randy, and old memories are always the best memories. And when we had our house on the corner of Bryn Mawr Avenue. We didn't have, the house was on, we had our house on Bryn Mawr Avenue, but on the corner of Bryn Mawr Avenue was not only Playland, where we used to go and partake in all the games in the pinball machines, and we were little and have to stand on a box just to be seeing up above the pinball machine. But on the corner of the other side of the street was the Tasty Freeze, which was an ice cream stand, which was a big name in its day, slanted roof like that because it looked like a Tasty Freeze. But little things make a difference. Right on the side of the Tasty Freeze were two of my favorite things as a little kid. They had two milk machines. I don't have a milk machine. I never ended up getting a milk machine. But also on the other side of the milk machines were not one, not two, but three telephone booths. Telephone booths? What's a telephone? All you youngsters out there with your cell phones, we didn't have cell phones. A lot of people didn't even have a phone in their house. There were phone booths that you would go and you'd open the door and go into the phone booth and you would put coins in the telephone in order to make a phone call. And depending upon where you were calling in long distance, depending upon how much money you were going to put into the phone for the telephone call. And they'd give you 3 minutes or 2 minutes or 1 minute, then the operator would come on and say, you know, please deposit 85 cents for the next minute, please. So you're trying to put the money in, trying to put the money in, and you're looking for money. And by the time you get the money in and you start talking again, they'd come on and say, please deposit more money, because you used up your minute by trying to put money in the machine. You should be ready. You should be there with a handful of coins, because telephone booths took a lot of money. So I had to get a telephone booth because they were so important. They were iconic. And over here we have one of my phone booths. And this is a fun one. Okay. This is from the Bell system. And this is a phone. Okay. They didn't call it a telephone. It's a phone, which meant this was a little later model. Because when I was little, they said telephone. All right. Then when you got into the 70s, they were trying to be hip. So they made it a phone booth because people were too lazy to say telephone. So, of course, you have to have somebody in the phone booth. So who's in the phone booth? Of course, there's Randy in the phone booth. But look, he's in the middle. He's half Superman and half in a suit, because Superman used to look for the phone booth in order to get out of his suit from the Daily Planet as being a reporter and take off the tie and the shirt, and underneath was his Superman suit. So Superman couldn't be Superman if he didn't find a phone booth in order to change it. So we have a Randy in his Superman, but his pants have fallen down. This we cannot have. Now you think it's going to be easy to open it? Oh, look, we got to fix his pants. Superman. Dun da da la 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 la. Superman's losing weight. How did his pants stay up there? I don't know. I must have had him pinned or something. Look, yes, he has his cape. The caped Superman here. I'm going to have to get something to fix his pants. But look, not only is the phone there, but it's a rotary. It's a rotary. You know, there's people who don't know how to dial. It's unbelievable. Let's call home. 1 2 0 1 3 7 9 2 8 0 6 I'm calling my house in Short Hills, 385 Hartshorn Drive. We're down here in Lavalette. Is anybody home? They're not answering. Why would they answer? They're all down here in Lavalette with me. All right, and you'll notice, how much is it? 10 cents for local calls. 10 cents. Lord help us the next time you would find local calls for 10 cents. And look, here's it's not in there, but this is where your phone book would be, and it would pull out, and it would come up, and it would open. It's on a hinged apparatus, and it would open, and on the shelf here, so you can, it has a light, which would automatically come on when you close the door. He lost his pants again. And there would be the phone booth. Yes, the Bell System phone booth. This is an older model, same aluminum booth, but it says telephone. This is your 60s phone booth. And you know, I had to have one that says telephone because I have one that says phone. So if you have one that says phone, you can't not have one that says telephone. You have to have these things. You know, why would you want just one? You know, when you have a phone booth, you have to have the different models that you actually went in when you were young. I mean, I remember going into one that said telephone, and I remember how upset I was when they put the newer ones that said phone. And you'll notice that the one that says phone is actually a little bit smaller in width. It's actually a little smaller than the one that says telephone. And the one that says telephone has a little wider lip on the top. You see this? It extends over, whereas these are more flush and flat. So these could be banked up easier, one after another, pinched together, whereas they had to leave a little space between the ones that said telephone. And when they leave a little space between them, you know what happens? People throw trash and cups and rubbish. Even back then, people were slobs. They would litter. People don't litter today like they littered back then. They would throw things out the windows and whatever. So they would throw their trash between the phone booths. And I guess they had to have people going around the route actually cleaning phone booths. Phone booths were amazingly germ havens. Even back then, there were germs because they would be usually in a closed position, or the door would be open a little bit and the sun would be baking on it. So you'd go into the phone booth, it would be like walking into a bit of an oven. They were hot. And they usually had a fan that would go on when you closed the door, but they were hot. And people would go in, they'd put their food there, their cups, they'd slop. Nobody's cleaning the phone booth for them. People don't clean up after themselves. So you'd go in there and you'd be using a receiver that people were just speaking into and spitting into. And between all the germs on the receiver and the slop on the floor and on the shelves and the grit and even the fingerprints that would be all over the windows, they were a special haven for flies. Flies loved phone booths. You could go over to the phone booth and start pushing the door and you'd see hundreds of flies flying around inside the phone booth. It was like the Amityville Horror. And you'd have to go into that phone booth in order to make your call. And you would usually close the door if there was anybody around so that they couldn't hear you, like Get Smart and the Cone of Silence, as if closing that door, nobody could hear you anyway. You'd whisper into the phone booth, you get real close on it, you'd whisper, germs, getting the germs on your lips, so people would get sick. So, I don't know, did they have better immune systems then? The phone booths were icons. You can't even find a phone booth anymore. In later years, before they did away with phone booths, they came out with the stand phone. It was like an oval bubble. All right, and it was, figure it like an egg with the end of it sliced off there, and the phone was in the egg to keep it out of the weather. So you'd go over and you'd stand there and you'd stick your head into the thing until you didn't actually go into the booth. It was cheaper for them to make. I guess it was a little more maintenance with the weather blowing on the phone or whatever, but they were far less expensive. I don't have one of those. I didn't like one of those, but I got plenty of payphones around. They're all around here. What do we have over here? Wait, you know, we're on the subject of phone booths. We got got to go over here. What about all the stuff that was out before I was born? In the 40s, in the 30s, in the 50s. Well, you know, they were still around. And I used to use those too. So these are the wooden phone booths. And this is before you had your aluminum phone booths, and they're made of wood. You see the door is beautiful, it's nice wood, and they still work, and they have their fan. And this model even had an additional fan there that you could turn on with a switch if you wanted an extra fan, all right? And I don't think this one had a light, or did it inside here? Yeah, that's a light there. That's a light inside the middle of the fan. And of course you had your old 3-coin payphones there. And Randy, of course, is in there in his, you know, like his 40s suit, like they would dress up when they would go to work, and he's holding his phone receiver. And this phone, you would actually dial the same way, but you put your coins in either a dime, a nickel, or a quarter slot. The other phone was an all-in-one slot, 3 coins go in one. So, of course, you have your Randys over here. There's some strange lady in that phone booth over there. I don't even know if she's wearing a, you know, one of those raincoats there like they would wear in the 40s, like a spy or something like that. But, you know, these phone booths typically didn't say phone on the top. These were just ventilations here. There was missing a grill on that one. And look, here's where you would see phone. They had the brass sign sticking out on the side that would say telephone. So you'd go over and you'd find it. I always wanted to have the continuing theme throughout Randyland. So every so often, I'd hang stuff, you know, wherever I could. So I had extra phones. So, you know, I've got them around. And I actually have the key. The special key, the automatic electric. They've made different companies, Western Electric. Look at that, the key works. Come out, look at this. You could take the phone off, all right? And what about all the wires? You're going to rip the wires. Look. It comes right off. This is your coin mech here. That would three different styles, quarters, dimes, nickels. They would have different tracks that they would follow down. Now, how did they know what coins? There's no switches here. There's only a few wires that are going up to the dial. And you see this here? How ingenious. These are contacts which would press onto the finger contacts. You can see where they've pressed over the years. And that's how this part would connect to the other part. This part here, okay, they've got it converted with a wire tie. It would direct the coins either into the cash box or into the coin return. So if your call didn't go through, the coins were sitting in this reservoir cup. And if you were going to get them back, it would have to solenoid activate this way, and you would get your coins, or solenoid activate that way, and it would go into the cash box for their profit. The cameraman had a dime. Now, dimes are not good to try things that haven't been used in many, many years because they're too lightweight, but you would put your dime in and you'd get a special sound. How about that? It still worked, and it worked great. Did you hear that? Now, we got our dime here because it wasn't on the thing and it wasn't in the reservoir. But here's the bell. See that? The dime would actually go through its mechanisms and its tests, and it would hit that bell. So as we do it backwards, you see that? Now, if we had a nickel, he says, I don't have a nickel. And like movie magic, we have suddenly found a quarter and a nickel in order to do our special test here. Now, we were talking about the dime and its ding ding. Listen. But the nickel, only one ding. What did a quarter do? Did you hear that little, like a piano key? I got to do it here because it's not as loud. Wait. Listen, ready? Did you hear it? Here it is. This little roll of steel. Okay? Now, why would they go to the trouble of making it with sound when the operator would get your number and say you have to deposit 35 cents. How does she know you put in a dime and a quarter? Because in there, you can't even see it. Right here, it's not even connected on this model. There would be a microphone. All right, there's a little microphone there. You can kind of see it. And that microphone, the operator could hear the inner working of the phone. So the operator, that was a real live person, would hear ding, ding, and know it was a dime. Would hear ding, know it was a nickel. Or hear bong, know it was a quarter. So it was all done by listening, the same sounds that you just heard. Well, what would stop somebody from coming with a little bell or have a unit like this and the operator say, put in a dime, and you could go like this. The operator would hear two dings. They would not know. You could do that. But nobody's walking around with this. Nobody had these, and nobody had the bell, and nobody had the knowledge that that's what it was doing unless you worked at the phone company. So very, very high-tech stuff on these payphones of the early years, all done by ingenuity of man and his knowledge of human nature. Most people aren't walking around with a bell and a dong so that they can save a dime on the phone. So we'll see you next time on the Main Street Randyland YouTube channel. Bye, guys.